Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome, everybody, to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And we have an awesome guest here tonight. We have Maxim Furek. He's an author, and we're going to be talking about some of the books that he's written and also his perspective on ufology and the things that are going on right now. It's just a crazy, crazy world. Also, we'll be doing that for hours 1 and 2, and then for hour 3, we'll be doing Steve Stockton with Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries, and then the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky. So it is going to be an awesome show. Let me go ahead and welcome in our medal positions here tonight. Looks like we have Race Fan with the gold, we have Tamothman with the silver, and Lil Cam 51, maybe from Twitch or from YouTube, with the bronze. Appreciate you guys coming on in. Also, let's see who else we have. Roger Murray dropping some knowledge here. December 17th, 1969, 55th anniversary, Project Blue Book shut down. Love it. Roger Murray always keeps us educated and informed. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on in as well. We have Carl Bittner in the building saying, "Flying Eagles fly." I'm a Cowboys fan. How dare you, Carl Bittner? But thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up here tonight. Also, we have Richard Minnick. Richard Minnick, thanks for coming on in, saying what's up, right back to you, Richard Minnick. We have Brown Dwarf BD saying good evening, appreciate you coming in, Brown Dwarf. Nice to see you here, sir. Also, we have none other than Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack, thanks for coming on in. With a bunch of heart emojis. That's spreading the love for the show tonight. I love it. That's the type of energy we need as we go ahead and get ready to jump into the show tonight. We got Karen in the Woo Train. Another wonderful episode of SOR is about to start. I'm trying to manifest that. We're going to channel that positive energy. Appreciate you, Karen in the Woo Train. We got Lars Jansen. Lars Jansen coming on in. Thanks, saying good morning, all. Wherever in the world you are, Lars Jansen. I still don't know where, but thank you for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. We got Frankie B in the building. Good evening, Frankie B. Right back to you. Ethanol saying, howdy, almost showtime. It is now showtime, Ethanol. Let's get it in. We got Woo I Am. Hello, SOR. You the man, Mr. Rob G. Love to you all. Woo I Am. Shout out right back to you. Thanks for coming in. SG Now Spotter. Thanks for showing up here, saying good evening, SOR. Renee Cruz with a bunch of Christmas emojis. And man, I'm feeling that mood. Thanks, Renee, for coming in tonight. Kurt M saying hi all. Hey, Kurt M. Thanks for showing up here. And we have Candy saying, hey, everyone. Hey, Candy. Thanks for showing up here tonight. The After Hours radio show, Super Crazy Movie Geek. We want retribution. That's exactly what we want. And appreciate you for showing up. Christine as well. Thanks for coming in. Treebird. Thanks for coming on in. And Lakeside Laura. And let's go ahead and start the podcast side of this real quick. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we're going to have an awesome guest, Maxim Furek, for hours 1 and 2. And then we're going to have Drew Banke and Steve Stockton, hours 3, right here on the Spaced Out Radio, After Hours radio show. Let's get this thing started. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight, we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram and X @SpacedOutRadio and @SpacedOutRadio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Dog, and oh so much more. We're going to have an awesome show tonight. We have Maxim Furek, who is a author, and I'm going to go ahead and read his bio because we're going to bring him right on in. He has a background that includes aspects of psychology, addictions, music, journalism, and the paranormal. He has a master's degree in communications from Bloomsburg University and a bachelor's degree in psychology from Aquinas College. Maxim has interviewed celebrity demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, which is awesome. He is featured on Coast to Coast with George Noory, exploring the bizarre with the legendary Timothy Green Beckley and Tim R. Swartz, and Art Bell's Midnight in the Desert with Heather Wade. Maxim has written numerous rock biographies and paranormal themed books, such as Flying Saucer Esoteric, The Altered States of Ufology, and Coal Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. We're going to be talking about that, all that, and more here tonight as we get ready to jump right on into the show and bring in our guest of the night, and none other than Maxim Furek. Hi, how are you today?
Hey, Mr. Rob G. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And I love the reference from one of your listeners about the Woo train. You know, I've been already called Mr. or Dr. Woo. And, you know, I talk a lot about some of the theories. My premise is if it's not flesh and blood, then what is it? So I go from there. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you. And you're going to fit right on in there, right in the family, it sounds like. So I think they're going to love you. They're going to love you for sure. And we're going to get into some really good stuff because you have some books that you've written. I really definitely want to touch those. But as with any other interview, we're meeting for the first time we're doing this. So we'd like to get to know who you are. What brought you to writing these books? What brought you into the field? Did you have experiences younger, or what led you in this path?
Well, first of all, you know, I think like we're all sort of like in the same place. You know, we're trying to figure this out. We're trying to find definitions and meaning and vocabulary. So it doesn't matter, you know, our experience or level of experience. You know, I think we're all at the same starting point. But, you know, I'm a baby boomer. We were born from 46 to 64. So, you know, we were raised with things like Twilight Zone and Thriller and Inner Sanctum and just so many really good TV programs like Twilight Zone that introduced us to horror and science fiction, and just so much of that. It was just rich. So I think that we all had an education in science fiction, flying saucers, witches, curses, the whole thing. And not just me, but a lot of my peers were into the same thing. We loved going to monster movies. We liked sci-fi. We had the worst special effects going, but we loved it. So I think that pretty much started it off. But with round two, yeah, anyone with Wu in the name of his family. That's right. Okay, yeah, call me Dr. Wu. But with round two, what happened was in 2016, I wrote this book. And I started off as a rock journalist. There was a song back home called Timothy, and Timothy was about cannibalism in a mine shaft. It was very controversial. WABC in New York refused to play it, and but anyway, it rose up the charts on Billboard, and I started to investigate the roots of the song. And here in 1963. In a place called Sheppton, Pennsylvania, there was a mining disaster. 3 guys were trapped for 2 weeks. Only 2 came out. And it was a wonderful celebration of human survival and technological rescue and all this. But when those 2 guys were rescued, they wanted to know what happened to the 3rd guy. And there were unfounded allegations of cannibalism that existed back in 63 till now. So as I was researching Sheppton, I found out that there were other weird things happening. It wasn't just cannibalism, but there were aspects of out-of-body experiences, after-death experiences, and near-death experiences and after-death experiences. So there were paranormal things. So that book came out in 2016. That was 9 years ago, and that really brought me into this paranormal realm, which has just been totally unexpected. I didn't go looking for it, Rob. It found me. So it stalked me, and it found me and hit me right over the head. So that's how I got to know about the paranormal. But I found a home. The paranormal folks have been very accommodating and respectful, and I like what I'm doing.
That is awesome. And I love that it hits you across the head, because that's essentially, I think, what it's done for a lot of people. You have that one experience or that one interaction with the phenomena that kind of opens your eyes up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is real. And you kind of dive right in the rabbit hole, right in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you're right.
So you have the Coal Region Hoodoo. So let's go ahead and start there. So we're talking paranormal. So you have the Coal Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. What is that about? And if you wouldn't mind going ahead and diving into that.
Yeah, well, after the success of the Sheppton mythology, back in 2016, that opened up the doors. So everything started to happen. I get invited to conferences, podcasts. We were on Australia's Mysterious Universe. So just everything opened up. So I thought I wanted to pursue this journey. And so I wrote Coal Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. And I'm a snowbird. I spend summers in Pennsylvania and winters down here in Florida. So I'm talking to you from the Sunshine State, but where it's 3 hours later. So
yeah.
But anyway, I followed up with Coal Region Hoodoo, and Coal Region Hoodoo is pretty much Pennsylvania centric. So I talked about things like the motion pictures that we gave the world were Night of the Living Dead from 1968, The Blob, and the Philadelphia Experiment. These are all the things from our home state. And so I talk about them. I talk about the essence of fear and Jack the Ripper. I talk about Bigfoot and UFOs. And Pennsylvania is a big state, after California and Washington and the Pacific Northwest. Pennsylvania ranks maybe 3 with Bigfoot sightings. And a lot of times these sightings are coupled with seeing orbs or flying saucers. So it lends us to believe that there's some sort of paranormal element, associated with Bigfoot, with Sasquatch. So I wrote about that. And then the other thing that happened was there was a guy named Dr. Frederick Santee, and talk about, doors opening, talk about serendipity, talk about fate, destiny, call it what you want. But, most of us authors, we're looking for the break. We're looking for the person that's going to be able to open the door, the person that walks the talk. And you got a lot of wannabes. You got a lot of people, wannabe players. You get a lot of pretenders. And it's not often that you meet somebody who's genuine and authentic. But with my book, Coleridge and Hoodoo, there was a chapter there. And I encourage your readers, if they're into the paranormal, the supernatural, to take a look at Coleridge and Hoodoo on Amazon and just read some of those reviews. There's about 60 of them. Just read what the people are saying. But one of the chapters was on Dr. Frederick Santee, and he was what's known as a white witch. Dr. Santee was the high priest for the Coven of the Cata. His coven was initiated by Sybil Leek, the world's most famous witch. And when Sybil Leek came to Walpolapin, Pennsylvania, and that's 5 miles away from where I live, Sybil came with her son, Julian, and her publicist. Sybil Leek was into the PR. And after Great Britain repealed the Witchcraft Act, and made it okay to practice witchcraft, she wrote a book. And Sybil Leek was the one that opened up the world to the possibility that you could practice, paganism or witchcraft or Wiccan, whatever. She was the one. She's the most important person in the field. So Sybil Leek came to Walpolapin to initiate Dr. Frederick Santee's coven. He was a child prodigy, a genius. He was the youngest person to graduate from Harvard. So my involvement in this, I was friends with Dr. Santee. I interviewed him. I got that on tape. But he is in my book, Coleridge and Hoodoo. So in June of 2024, it was this year, I was invited to a paranormal conference to do a lecture on Dr. Frederick Santee. So it got better. There was a woman there from New York City. She was a producer, and she has a program. You probably heard of it. It's a Oculus Alchemy. So Samantha Collins gave me her card and said that she wanted to do something on Dr. Santee. That was June the 2nd. On August the 9th, Samantha came to Walpolapin, Pennsylvania with her camera crew and shot this thing on Dr. Santee. So that's going to be the first program that airs on Oculus Alchemy. And then she's going to go and do an extended documentary and schlep it around to Netflix, Travel Channel, whoever. So I just can't believe it. I mean, like this, again, I didn't come looking for this, but here's an opportunity. Doors are opening. My book, Coleridge and Hoodoo, is being used for this, this soon to be made documentary. So I couldn't be more elated. It's exactly what us authors are looking for. Somebody maybe like you, Mr. Rob G, to open up a door, to put us in touch with somebody else that can open up a door. So it's like that. It's that synergy. And I tell people all the time, I mean, you've heard this one before, but it's not about the destination. I mean, none of us know where we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's not about the destination. It's about this wonderful journey where we meet people and have experiences, either highs and lows, whatever. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun being a paranormal author, and Coleridge and Hoodoo is really pretty much hitting it out of the park for me. I mean, it's just like it's done a lot. We've sold a ton of books and we've been on 1 million podcasts. So it's just been a great book for me, and, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you say that very well. You kind of just get led into these positions and you do what you're called on to do. And
almost like a calling. I think, good point. Yeah.
Now, how do you look at the phenomena itself, right? It's an umbrella, and it encompasses a lot of the things that you write about and that we're all into. What is your perspective on the phenomena? How would you describe it?
Well, a lot of people ask me, is there a difference between the paranormal and the scientific? And a couple of things. I think that the spiritual, the paranormal, and the scientific are just this one mass. It's this piece of ectoplasm. It's all the same. We just haven't figured out the rules. and the guidelines and how it works. But I think it's all the same. And Dr. Frederick Santee told me, he said that he believes that the supernatural is aligned with the scientific, but we just haven't found what the rules are. Like, for example, an easy one is when an apple drops. What we see is we see the apple dropping. So we know why that happens because of Newton's law of gravity. So there's cause and effect. That's an easy one. But when people see these orbs in the sky, or they see these drones over New Jersey that were, please somebody tell me what the hell that is, So nobody knows. Every government official is talking out of the side of their mouth, I mean, come on, shoot it down or get a net or whatever, but I mean, it can't, I don't know. I'm just like, I got a headache. And everybody's asking me, what do I think about the drones? I said, I don't know. I don't have a clue. It's driving me crazy, So, but I think there's going to be an answer there. But just with the paranormal, we don't know what the cause and effects are, what the rules are with these orbs that we see, or the apparitions, or whatever the thing is that we're talking about, the UFO or the cryptid. So I don't know, but everybody's talking about these drones. That's like the thing right now. And everybody has their own. I mean, what do you think? Do you have an opinion what that might be?
Since you brought it up, because we've been talking a lot of drones on this channel lately, and I think we should, because there's a lot of people out there that still are looking for answers. No one has answers, so we should be talking about this every chance that we get. My perspective on the drones, I did a comprehensive breakdown on this, and there are just so many things about this. Initially I'm thinking, okay, the government, before they showed us videos and images, I'm like, okay, the government is right. This is right after the hearing, the UFO hearing. So I'm like, okay, they're trying to take these quadcopter drones, put them in front of the world, like they did the whole spy balloon thing. And say, hey, look at this. This is what everybody's been seeing, these quadcopter drones, and then try to write the narrative off. But then the story twisted and manifested into these big, huge things that they don't understand what they are. So now we got something. So now it's like, okay, what do we have here? We have something that they can't explain, and then we have to look at adversarial. Is it ours, or is it someone in the private world? We've kind of broke all that down. I don't see the adversarial aspect. It just doesn't seem plausible to me. The private hobbyist, I just don't see that either. Mm-hmm. And then as far as the government goes, obviously they could have black projects, but does it make sense for them to put them on display for over a month? For me, that doesn't make sense, right? Then you have anomalous cases out there where some of these things are actually balls of light, balls of plasma. Some of them look like physical craft, but here in ufology, I think one thing and a couple things that bother me about determining if something is anomalous or not. We put a stamp on 5 observables, and I just don't think we should. Yes, if it exhibits that, then of course it's not normal. But I think you can look outside of the 5 observables, and I think UFOs don't have to zip at lightning speed. They could travel as slow as they like.
Yeah.
They could have flashing lights. We know that they do historically. Mm-hmm. So just because you see flashing lights, I feel like you shouldn't write it off as something prosaic. And I think that's kind of where everything is at now. And I feel like 80% of me feels like we might be looking at what we think it is. You know what I mean? But there's 10-20% of me that still is not going to fully commit and say, okay, maybe long shot government somehow has done this and brought this all together. I don't know. But we've been talking heavily about that on this channel. First glance, what did you think? Did you think anything anomalous, or?
Well, I'm the one thing that got me confused is that the government, isn't giving us, much information. I mean, none at all. When I heard the I don't know what department head talking just today. He just didn't make any sense. I mean, I wasn't satisfied with what he was saying. So I don't think they know, but I know we have the technology to send a plane up there with cameras to check out the infrared, whatever, to take pictures like they did off the coast of San Diego in, what was it, 2004, the Navy pilots took that video of the Tic Tac UFO. So that was the infamous one. So we can do that. We have that technology. So I don't know why they're not doing that. The other thing, too, that really frustrates me about the government, when they had the UFO hearings in July of 2023, David Grush said that he knows where the bodies are and he knows where the saucers are. And at the time, now I'm a resident of Florida right now. So at the time, Marco Rubio, who I guess is going to be Trump's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio was on the UFO committee. So I wrote him a letter and I said, Senator Rubio, David Grush claims to know where all these things are. Let's make him show his cards. We've came this far. It's just like, we're being titillated. Let's have him show us the cards. I asked Marco Rubio to further the discussion and get him in a room where he would go and discuss this alleged confidential information. So I got a nice letter back from Marco Rubio, and then I was going to send him another letter number 2, and now he's nominated as the Secretary of State. So I believe Marco Rubio's out of the UFO game right now. So there'll be another one, but. But getting back to the UFO here, the congressional hearings of 2023, again, there was a lot of talk about transparency and a lot of talk about disclosure, and they brought in all these people like David Grush. But what did we learn? They just brought us to the brink. It was just like a big tease. Where's the big reveal? There wasn't any. And then they did it again, I think it was last month. They brought more people, more witnesses that talked about this and said that the government knows things and everything. And again, this is round 2. They're talking about it and having these public meetings. But again, we're not any closer to the truth. I mean, this talk we've heard the same talk since 1947. So it's nothing new what they're telling us with the congressional hearings. I mean, say something, give us something, I mean, I get a headache from it, and I don't think enough people are pissed off about it because, I mean, the government's, if they're not lying to us, they're deceiving us or they're distorting the thing. So I don't know. I'm frustrated by the whole thing.
I feel your passion and I enjoy it because I feel the same way. And I'll say this. I'll say that we know the government will never, unless they're forced to, like now, to disclose, it'll never happen. Now, the beautiful thing is in this moment, regardless how this turns out, whether this ends up being extraterrestrial or somehow it's man-made somehow, the beautiful thing is that you have the awareness now of a lot of people who before didn't even take this seriously. Even in the media, you see how heavily they're covering this. They could have covered the UFO story just as heavily. It's all the same elements and all of the same concerns and questions. So it's really nice to see it being engaged by more than just our crowd. And I think that even if this doesn't turn out to be UFOs, I think it preps a lot more people for that conversation once we're ready to have it. And what I propose in this moment is for everybody out there, anyone who has data, this is the perfect time to do maybe a bait and switch right now. I'll call it out, bait and switch. If this is mundane, then let's show them something that isn't in this moment that we have everyone's attention. Because the last time we had the world's attention was during COVID, when we had to focus on this one thing and everyone was paying attention. But we'll go ahead and talk more about that because we're going into the first break of the night right now with Maxim Furek. We'll be back talking UFOs, paranormal, all sorts of stuff right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. You guys don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Okay.
All right, clear. All right, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Paul DeMont, I see you out there. And guys, we're going to talk about this after the break here. But Maxim, they've been talking about, I don't know if you've heard some of the things they're talking about. Some of the conspiracy theories I feel like they're coming up with is that these are military drones and they are searching for a lost nuclear weapon, a rogue nuclear weapon that has been somehow smuggled in, and it's potentially a terrorist issue. And these drones are up here trying to detect radiation signatures and listen on communications. And it is bothering me because there's no data to support that. And I think it's just the vacuum created by these officials not having answers. So now you have people just making things up. Or I mean, if there's a basis there, if there's something there, please let me know, because that would be very important to know and to relay to the public. But I just, if I take it upon myself to sit here and say, hey, they're searching for nukes, that's irresponsible, I feel like, without any sort of evidence to support that. What is your view on that?
Well, again, we're all looking for some of that evidence, and like right now, like I'm just feeling so confused because I'm reading about this. I'm looking on the internet for information. I'm listening to the government officials. I mean, I'm doing my due diligence, and I'm coming up with nothing. So, you're asking the wrong guy. I mean, I wish I had some answers, but I don't know. I don't think it's a government operation. I think, I don't know. I thought initially that it might have been something from China or from Iran, but they're not. They just don't seem to act that way. So I don't know. I don't know if these are drones that belong to public citizens, but if they are, we should have ways to go and capture some of those or bring some of those down. So that's what I don't understand. I mean, are they really sophisticated stealth drones or what? Again, I don't know, but I don't know if any of your listeners have any intel, but
yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I looked into it because here's what I'll say. Ross Colt, our reporter, has come out and said that he's heard these rumblings of these claims, and they're just unsubstantiated. So, this is a guy obviously that has sources out there. He's talking to people. This is something serious, and if it's true, and he's been told that it's not, and it's just when we look at the people that are saying it are people that are just podcasting, and they found this out because of a social media post, and there is no it's almost, to me, it feels like a planted story, if anything, to kind of dissuade what we're actually experiencing, because some of these things we're seeing in the sky are balls of light, they're plasma balls, they're things that just can't be man-made. So yeah, let's just say, they are government drones, and they're searching for the threat, which isn't in the sky. It's some random fictitious nuke that's somewhere, in the United States. So why would they be showing up all around the world then? Like, what sense does that make? And I like to use common sense and logic to try to think through this. And if it doesn't, if you can't apply logic to it, then I can't go with it. I'll be open to it, but I can't.
Well, that's a scientific method. It has to make sense.
Yeah.
By with two of us or three of us, or all of us or most of us, but that's what we're trying to do. It could be this too. Here, the one thing I was just thinking too, let's just say that they're sending all these drones over New York, Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I'm wondering what's happening in other places in the United States. I wonder if this is just a distraction, a diversion, that we're watching the skies on the East Coast when something's happening someplace else. So
I thought about that. I thought about that initially when it was only New Jersey, But then when it started popping up other places, then that kind of went away. But I did go through that thought process. I'm like, is this, you're having this look over here because something's happening over here? But then they started showing up over here. And so it was like, okay, well, maybe that theory doesn't work out. But yeah, you know, the one thing that they don't, the one thing that would make sense that they don't want to admit is the extraterrestrial presence is here, which we know it's here because we have examples of it in experiences and things of that nature. So, and we're seeing visually what appears to be the characteristics of the extraterrestrial presence. So, but we're coming back right here in 5 seconds. We may rehash some of this as well. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We are back here with our guest, Maxim Furek, jumping into UFOs, the paranormal, and all sorts of things here. You guys, if you missed any of this conversation, make sure that you jump in our archives, youtube.com/@SpacedOutRadio, and catch up on what you missed as we go ahead and get ready to jump right back in to the conversation. We were just speaking about drones. Because I mean, it is, you know, the number one topic on everyone's mind across the United States. People can't sleep. There's people right now who have these things flying over their house, and that's why I feel compelled to talk about it, because it's not happening to me, but it's happening to them. And I can only imagine if I had to worry about that each and every night, and we still don't have answers. You know, we have the FBI, we have the White House. It seems like a division within the government where you have one side saying, one part of the government saying, hey, there's nothing to see here, everything's okay, but these aren't adversarial and these aren't ours, but everything's okay, there is no threat, there's nothing to worry about. How can all those things be true? Like, how can we make all that make sense? You know, and we talked during the break, which there are these crazy, I'm going to call them crazy, there are these crazy rumors out there that people are spreading about potentially these things being related to military drones that are scanning the United States for what, I don't know where this information came from, but for a nuke that is supposedly floating around the United States and maybe in the hands of terrorists. And more political, I think, because I think they're trying to, what they have done, a lot of people that talk about this have tried to relate that to open borders, and someone snuck one in because of open borders, and it's having this political twist to it. So I feel like that's the nature of that conspiracy theory. And I talked to you about it and asked you what you thought about it. And I don't know if you want to rehash that for our radio audience.
Well, you know, right now during this time of, you know, confusion and turmoil, and maybe even panic with some people, you know, people are searching for answers, for the truth. We need to find answers. And so a lot of times people make things up, they fabricate things, and that's where the conspiracy theories come in. You know, the best one, the first conspiracy theory of the internet was the flight, what was it? Was it 800 that went over Long Island and blew up? Now, a lot of people said that they saw friendly fire. They saw rockets firing from the ground up to that TWA flight. The government ended up by saying that there was some loose wires in the belly of the plane, and it torched the gas and blew up the plane. Now, I was close to this because there were a bunch of kids from Montoursville, Pennsylvania. They were members of the French Club, and they went to New York, and they were flying to Paris for some kind of a field trip. So there are all these kids there and school teachers that died in this flight. I believe it was 800. But I remember the conspiracies that the government shot it down, that they were trying to do a diversion so that Bill Clinton could get reelected, just all kinds of things. But I mean, this was the first internet theory. A lot of them were anti-government. You know, these they were very right-wing conspiracy guys that were blaming the government for everything, you know, the deep state. So I remember that one. I think right now we're doing a similar thing. But I think the panic comes in. Remember back around 1935, Orson Welles did a remake of the War of the Worlds, and it was live. It was on the radio, and it was about an invasion of these Martians that landed in New Jersey. Well, some people believed it was true. Some people didn't hear the disclaimer that this is just a reenactment. But supposedly people committed suicide and were panicking and everything else. So this was a big thing to do. But this reminds me a little bit of that, a little bit more civilized, a little bit more settled and contained. But still, it's not going to take much for some kind of hysteria. So hopefully, we get to the end of this. But it's when we talk about saucers and UFOs and everything, I mean, this is just like I don't know. I'm hoping that this isn't some kind of a diversion to get us off the mark. With all these government subcommittees looking at it. I mean, we're being manipulated. We're just like we don't know anything other than what they're telling us. So. I don't know, but
I'm looking at it like they're poking the hornet's nest, because you are not only getting the community in an uproar by not saying anything, but you're also doing the same thing to government officials, mayors, governors, Congress members. And so when they get involved, now you have to come with some answers now, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to let this go. So there has to be an end game here. So something has to give. And it's just, the only time I'm just looking around and I don't see a world where they let the population sit in place if there's a nuke floating around the United States somewhere. I just don't see that, because if it came to light that was the case, that would be horrifically appalling, and the trust would be out the window for the government at that point. Doesn't make sense. And so, when I'm looking at the fact that the way that they're treating this is very similar to the way that they're treating just the subject of UFOs, it's not a coincidence that those two things are so much alike as far as the way they're handling them, and the fact that they just won't give an answer. They won't even budge. Like, they won't budge at all.
Now, every now and then the government gives it up. Like they told us about the CIA's, MK Ultra, where they used LSD to dose scientists and Johns and all kinds of things, just to see what would happen, with this hallucinogen. And the one scientist, he threw himself out of a building, committed suicide, and it was Gerald Ford, President Ford, that apologized to his family. And they gave them some money, there was, a payment with that, but that was the CIA involvement. And it's amazing that they told us that, so, who knows, the answer lies with if you're into finance, if you can follow the money, you can take a look at the defense departments, see all these different departments and see where the black money's going, the dark money that we don't know anything about. And it's not just the CIA and the FBI, but there's all these other clandestine groups that we've never heard of. So I don't know, but they don't want us to know. So we're, here on these podcasts trying to figure it out. It's probably some government dude listening in to see how close we're getting to the truth, so.
For sure. And then that's where I think, and you're exactly right, they definitely do that. And that's where I feel like they've been doing that, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're thinking this through. They are coming with logic, they're using logic, and they're almost getting correct. Let's go ahead and throw this nuke story out there. Let's seed this nuke story so we can try to get them off that path. Because I think if you look around, you listen to a lot of conversations, even with the congressmen, the citizens that never thought about UFOs before, the newscasters that would never cover this before, but now they're covering it. They're even like, oh my God, this is weird. So I think it's to a point to where if this is connected to anomalous or UFOs, that everyone is shifting into maybe it is UFOs. And so here we go with this seeded story that has no roots anywhere. It's just popped up on social media somehow. We know about propaganda through social media. We know how that works.
Yeah.
And essentially, that's, I think, what we see playing out. So not putting anything into that. But you brought up Flight TWA 800. So
Yeah.
I wanted to know, what did you think about MH? What's your view on MH370? Because there are some theories there as well.
Now, which one is that? Refresh my mind on that one.
That's the one that just disappeared over the ocean. They still haven't found it. Yeah, that one. And there's some things that have come out lately that, gosh, Ashton Forbes, I believe, is the guy who has this theory that MH370, because they released that video where they show what is supposed to be MH370, and they have these orbs that are kind of circling it as it flies through the sky. Some people have debunked that video, but he stands on the video, says, no, this is actually real. Someone screen recorded this. And what has happened is he believes that the government has designed a capability to transport this airplane to some other place, and they did it because there were these Chinese officials on board that were like chip manufacturers or something. Had you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't, but it sounds a lot like the Philadelphia experiment, where the destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, was teleported from Philadelphia Naval Yard to Norfolk and then back. And when it rematerialized, men became psychotic and men were fused into the bulkheads and all kinds of things.
Yeah, heard about that.
I interviewed a gentleman named Fred Tracy, who claimed that it was true. He was from Derry, New Hampshire. I went up there to interview him, and he had documentation from Admiral Forrestal, and just all kinds of things. So he believed that the Philadelphia experiment thing was true, and that it actually happened. So
let me ask you this: you have the altered states of ufology. That was one of the things that stood out to me. What did you mean by that? Like, what does that mean to you, in your words?
Yeah, well, with the altered states of ufology, was that there's just so many takes on that, so many variations, so many explanations. And my book, the altered Flying Saucer Esoteric, the altered states of ufology, was sort of a encyclopedia. It's the history of flying saucers from the days before Christ, where people saw things, and also some people were put to the stake for what they saw if they went against church and state. And what I mean by that is this, that the way the church viewed things was that because we were made in the image of God, we were godlike, and so everything revolved around man. All the planets revolved around the earth. When Copernicus found out that the earth and all the planets went around the sun, it was they didn't put him to death, but they put Bruno to death. They burned him at the stake and Galileo was on house arrest because they went against the dictates of the church, which was aligned with the state, that we were that Earth was the epicenter of the solar system. But anyway, in Flying Saucer Esoteric, I trace this all the way up to the congressional hearings of 2023. I look at Roswell. I look at all of those things. Being from Pennsylvania, our big flying saucer thing was in 1965. It was the Kecksburg UFO. Came down out in the rural part of western Pennsylvania in Kecksburg, and we call it the Pennsylvania Roswell, but what happened was the military went in there in the dead of night. They took this acorn-shaped object out, covered in tarps and everything, took it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where allegedly they took, the Roswell humanoids. But a whole bunch of people used the Freedom of Information Act to find out what was there at Kecksburg. And in every case, the information was either missing or it was redacted. They scrubbed it out. They wiped it out with a marker. So we never found out what happened in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, but we know that there was something there. And again, what are the possibilities? It could have been an experimental, well, it could have been maybe it could have been a meteorite because it was manned, it was controlled, but it could have been one of ours, an experimental something. Some people felt it was a Soviet satellite, and then the other one was that it was from outer space. The latest one, though, with Kecksburg, it was the Glock. It was the Nazi Germany bell that they used time travel to go from the 1930s to 1965, Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. So I have a good friend, Harry Cooper, and Harry's an expert on U-boats and Nazi Germany. Harry's written books about Hitler going from, escaping to Argentina, which at first I was skeptical, but you know what? When you look at means, motive, and opportunity, same thing as in a murder. Hitler had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to get out of town, maybe have plastic surgery, whatever, just to live it up in Argentina. So I really believe that happened. But anyway, Harry Cooper is my go-to guy down here in Florida, and he knows all about the German bell. And so he's just a great guy that I like hanging out with. Harry's in his 80s, and he knows all these German and Allied World War II guys. So he's pretty interesting. So
wow.
To hang with.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because I was actually just about to ask you when you're writing about the history going back to like biblical times of incidents coming up to current day. And I was going to ask you because the main scope that a lot of people look in when they think of UFOs is going back to Roswell or back to Die Glock, what you're talking about, I guess, to 1933.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So anything prior to that, if you could pick, because I'm sure a lot of people would love if you had something here, anything you could pick like in 1800s, 1700s, that an incident that really lines up with the things that people are seeing today.
Well, and if you in my book, if you take a look at 1947 with Kenneth Arnold, who saw, and 47 was when the word flying saucer came into our language. That's when the reporter, Kenneth Arnold saw those 9 discs. And when the reporter interviewed him, he said that they were like saucers skipping on the water. So rather than calling them a flying disc, the reporter called them flying saucers. So that's where the term came. But other than Kenneth Arnold, and then I think it was a month later, Roswell, had the Roswell crash. And I had the opportunity to meet Walter Haut. Walter Haut was the publicist for, which was called at the time, the United States Army Air Force. Now it's Army and Air Force, but it was Army Air Force at the time. But he wrote the press release that the Army Air Force has a flying disc in its possession. And then that same day, they changed their tune and said, no, it was a weather balloon. And they had Jesse Marcel sit there with a photo op showing this parachute, which was just staged and contrived because that's not what they found. They found metal and hieroglyphics and everything else. But Walter, before he died, he had a deathbed confession. He said that he saw humanoids, Walter Haut. So, and a lot of people did that. A lot of people had the deathbed confessions talking about what they saw. So all we know is that with Roswell, that happened in 47, I think it wasn't until 1980 that Charles Berlitz and William Moore wrote the book about Roswell, that 1980, that everybody started to know about it. But all of this was based on hearsay, based on witnesses that claimed that they saw things. And again, but that Roswell mythology just won't go away. It gets bigger and bigger. It's part of who we, just like Bigfoot. I mean, Bigfoot's the same way. It's just like in our brains, we talk about it. We have theories and we've seen them. But the to answer your question, I'm sorry I'm being so long-winded, but
Yeah, no, you're fine.
but in the book, if you take a look at 1947 and see what happened there, and just go backwards, I mean, people have always seen orbs and saucers. They've seen humanoids. I mean, so it's nothing new. I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time. So, what exactly are they? I mean, again, we don't know, but the government, says that, 3% of the things that we see, we can't explain. So the possibilities, they're ours, or stealth technology. They belong to either China or Iran or some other state, again, stealth technology, and the third one was that they were extraterrestrial, but now even that's being challenged. And a lot of people, including myself, believe that a lot of these things, both Bigfoot and flying saucers, are interdimensional, that they go through like what Einstein called wormholes or bridges, going from, if you take let me use this. If this represents the space-time continuum, you can just fold it like that, and they can go from one dimension to another, just like that, rather than going millions of light years from point A to point B. I mean, nobody can do that. I mean, no space brother, no space technology is that advanced. They could travel those light years. I mean, you need energy and propulsion and all that. And and if you believe Einstein's thing, the faster you go, the slower time travels, and all these stories about astronauts going to another planet and then coming back, and they're still young, but their wives are, 50 years older,
Yep.
So that's all Einstein's, theory of relativity and time travel. So, but I don't know. There's so much room for conjecture and to talk, and it's just gotten bigger with Roswell. And the story goes that they found humanoids, and they took them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where they're keeping them there. And Wright-Patterson was always used for experiments. They had the centrifuge, and I had a friend who was a Air Force pilot that went there, and he was snooping around. He was looking for the humanoids. He had heard the stories, and he couldn't find anything. I mean, of course, if they're there, the doors are locked, and you got to have clearance and everything. So, but he did look. So
now I'll say this with Roswell, and interviewed David Altman, who's like a producer for Discovery document or Discovery Max show that they actually have out. I think it's called Alien Encounters, where they had experiencers come in and show their videos, and then they tried to determine if they were fake or not. And within that series, there was a gentleman who came in who actually had gone back to the Roswell crash site, actually went to both crash sites, because there's supposedly two, and came back with a piece of aluminum. And they went ahead and the show tested it, and it came back as 99.9% aluminum. And it's like, you don't find that in its natural state. It is rarely found. But the one thing they did put together is it appears that they find this 99.9% aluminum at essentially all UFO crash sites.
okay.
So, which was pretty amazing to me when I heard that. And then also with the humanoid thing. So, yeah, there's definitely stories of them capturing biologics in that crash. And there's people that say today, and I'm not going to say it's true or not, but they say, hey, they heard that these ETs are coming back because they want their bodies back. They want the bodies back. And I've talked about that. Like, it makes sense that if we lost someone on a different planet, we traveled there, we'd want the body back for ceremonial reasons. Why wouldn't they? And would their perspective change? But what we're going to do, we're actually going into the top of the hour break. We'll be back with Maxim Furek right after this message. You guys don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, Max, we're off camera for the next 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. I'm going to make some tea then, so I'll take a little break.
Yep, see you then.
Green.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Coming back with our guest, Maxim Furek. We have about 30 seconds left before we come back from radio. And guys, get your questions ready. Put them in all caps as well. Anything that you want to ask our guest tonight, put them in caps. We'll make sure that we ask those. We would appreciate it. And let's see. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our guest, Maxim Furek, paranormal author. We're going to go ahead and get into some of the wooier stuff here, so you guys don't go anywhere as we get ready to jump back into the show. If you missed any of the show tonight, jump in the archive, absolutely free, youtube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. Catch up on what you missed as we jump back on in and talk about. There were a couple things, Maxim, I was looking at. So, the gentleman that owns this channel, Dave Scott, he is big time into Bigfoot, and I know that you have the book in relation to Bigfoot, which is The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, and then also Bigfoot is the New Religion. Would you be able to? Is Bigfoot our new religion? Could you explain, what your connection to Bigfoot is and what these books are about?
Yeah, well, it's just my book, The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot. It's only been out for 3 months, and it's published by Hangar One. They're the folks that did the Monster Quest program. But there's a chapter in there, Is Bigfoot the New Religion? Mm-hmm. And I talked about how people, I talked about organized religion, that, people aren't going to church as much as they used to. So there's a decline in membership. And I used some statistics. I compared my group, the baby boomers, with Generation Z. And these are the oldest would be 27 years old. And with baby boomers, 64% of us, when they took the survey, believed in God and organized religion, as opposed to 24% of Generation Z. So what happened? Why is there such a big disparity in that? And I believe, that we're spiritual creatures, so we need to exercise. We need to exercise that spirituality. So how do you do that? Well, if you don't do it in church, you do it other places. And I think that some of these Bigfoot searchers go out there into the woods with other people, with like-minded people, and they have their congregation. They have Bigfoot as their higher power. They do their sacraments, their sacrifice, whatever, and it takes a form of a religion. So when I wrote that chapter, I did get some feedback from some right-wing, evangelicals who took offense at it, but that's fine. I mean, I wasn't saying that Bigfoot was better than organized religion or anything else. I'm just saying that, organized religion doesn't have the numbers that they used to, and that's just maybe the way society's going. But the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, I take a look at. I start with the premise: if it's not flesh and blood, what is it? And then I talk about things like Einstein's interdimensional theory. I talk about Carl Jung's collective unconscious, that just maybe this thing about Bigfoot may be residue from our caveman ancestors that we carry with us in our DNA, in our amygdala, and when we see that, or maybe mass hallucination. So we don't know. We know that some people have have seen Bigfoot. The best evidence that I've seen is the Patterson-Gimlin film that was from California back in 1967, and that's infamous. It was only 58 seconds, and Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were riding their horses there. Patterson had the lead, and he had a camera that was in his saddlebag, and they were going to make a documentary about Bigfoot and then make money to do a larger expedition to find Bigfoot. They went around the bend, and all of a sudden they saw a Bigfoot. It was a female Bigfoot, and they could tell it was a female. It had breasts. And this female, they called it Patty later on, but Patty turned around, looked at Patterson, and then went forward and moved off. And when they first saw it, the horse buckled, it reared, and Patterson got thrown off. And he still was able to go and take some video, but it was only 58 seconds. And it's probably the best evidence that we have for Sasquatch. Experts like Dr. Jeff Meldrum from the University of Idaho have looked at it, and they believe that it's authentic. It's not a man in a rubber suit. You know, they looked at the footprints that were larger than man or bear. The stride was larger, you know, at the where they shot the film was larger, that was wider than a human being could make, or a bear. So this is the equivalent to the 2004 San Diego Tic Tac video for UFOs. So I have a chapter on Bigfoot and UFOs, the connection between the two of them. So in my book, I take a look at Bigfoot, you know, through a different lens. But certainly the Is Bigfoot the New Religion was the one that caused some controversy, had some people yell at me, you know, after doing some of these podcasts. And, you know, so I touched a nerve on that. But I mean, you know, that's what I believe and that's what I wrote. So I'm not going to, you know.
Yeah. No, you stand on what on how you feel. I like that. And, you know, I could see the parallels in how you may have come to that conclusion. I could understand that. And one thing that when I was reading through your bio, it was that really, and it ties in actually to right now, because it stated that you take great pleasure essentially into calling out hoaxers, Bigfoot hoaxers, UFO hoaxers. I'm that guy too. I actually applaud that, because I think in the field, it's, you know, we're all bunched up, and there's a part that just are not telling the truth, and are embellishing and kind of make us the whole, you know, give us a bad look essentially. Would you mind talking to that?
Yeah, well, it really upsets me. I've stated that I believe that they've sold their souls to the devil. You know, they've made a bargain only for 15 minutes of fame. Now, some people have made money from it. There was Rick Dyer had an alleged Bigfoot. You know, it turned out to be a rubber suit that he had this Hollywood company make, but he made, I don't know, $60,000, something like that. But I mean, he was taking it around to different carnivals and things and making money. In my book, I have 3 chapters on the hoaxers, the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot. And I talk about the Piltdown Man, and that was back in England, where there was a sort of a contest. I would call it a contest, but in Germany, they discovered the Heidelberg Man, which was the oldest hominid that we found. It was the oldest relative of man. And this guy, Charles Dawson, who was he was an attorney from England, he claimed that he found something that was older, and it turned out to be a hoax. It was a skull. It was an ancient skull, a human skull, but it had the jaw of an orangutan. So Dawson peppered these bones with iron oxide to make them look older, and he scruffed up the teeth of the orangutan to make it look more like a human. And there were scientists and politicians that supported this hoax only because they wanted to have their Heidelberg Man. They wanted to have their English version of Heidelberg Man. So the Piltdown Man was the one, and that's an infamous hoax in history that lasted something like 40 years before they got called out. The other one was the Minnesota Iceman, and there was a carny named Frank Hansen, and Frank claimed that he found this this snowman, this Bigfoot creature, floating in a glacier from Siberia.
Mhm.
So he was able to con Ivan T. Sanderson and Bernard Helvemans, and they were the Helvemans was the father of cryptozoology. Ivan T. Sanderson coined the term cryptozoology. So these were two guys that were desperately looking for the missing link. That was the link between apes and man, and they thought they found it with this this Minnesota Iceman, but they were duped. They were tricked. And again, the whole field of the paranormal and cryptozoology, you know, looks foolish. I mean, we were embarrassed that these guys should have known better, were duped with that. So I have, you know, 3 chapters talking about that. The Ray Wallace was the infamous one back in 1958 when they had the Bluff Creek photos, and that was the big one. They were some of these wildcat workers there found tracks, and they were authentic tracks. They were huge tracks. They made the prints and everything. There was a guy named Ray Wallace who started to make these fake tracks, and the media jumped all over this, and they thought that this Bigfoot thing was a big hoax and everything, and that everybody was being duped. But it was Loren Coleman who called out Wallace. He said his quote was, "Fakery not revealed is a lie that lives on into the future." So Loren Coleman, the noted cryptozoologist, was the one that called out this hoaxer and went on record, you know, for that. So I've been sort of on a you know, on a quest, just talking about some of these people. And I hear them on these podcasts. You know, there's Sasquatchers that claim that they hang out with the family of Sasquatch, that they feed them apples and pears, that they talk, that they like certain kinds of music, that they don't like rap, they don't like rock, but they might like country, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, you know, I want to see the proof. I mean, if you're telling the truth, show us the proof. Give us some DNA, give us some hair follicles, whatever, you know, and we're not getting that. And, you know, you know, again, it's like another flying saucers over Jersey, you know, where's the meat? Where's the proof? And, but I get upset with it because these hoaxers are getting their fame. Maybe in some cases they're making money. But I believe that what they're doing is, by being dishonest, they're setting us back, you know, and, you know, there's the scientific community, and a lot of members of the public view us as being just fools. And, you know, these hoaxers just make us look even more foolish. So I dislike them, and I call them out every chance I get.
Bravo. Continue to do that, sir, because, you know, I have friends on the completely skeptical side of this conversation. They have opposing views, and they focus on calling out certain people within ufology. And I don't really have a problem with that, because, as you said, it sets us back. And we have a problem that and that's why a lot of people outside of ufology call this a religion, because we have extreme believers that just believe to believe. And those are the ones that the hoaxers take advantage of, are the ones that don't question anything. They just believe what they're being told. Those are extreme believers. And I think there's, even on the other side, I've said the skeptics, there's extreme skeptics. Extreme skeptics and extreme believers are, you know, no good to the conversation, because it doesn't take any convincing for them. Like, they don't have any critical thinking.
Exactly.
So the hoaxers take advantage of them. And yeah, we need, and what I said was, I was like, we have to find a way to get rid of that, but we can't just extricate these people. So maybe we should kind of take the the open-minded part of the conversation and shift it over here and kind of leave the hoaxers back here, because and I just applaud anyone who calls out a hoaxer,
Yeah.
because I feel it's disingenuous, and I feel that you're taking advantage of people who just really want to believe. And it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't sit right with me. And keep doing it, please do.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of history's most infamous hoaxers was a California guy, and that was George Adamski. And George Adamski in the 50s said that he saw these flying saucers in the desert, that he was taken for a ride by a humanoid from Venus, that he would travel to these different planets in flying saucers, and people believed them. But Adamski, who was Polish American, he only had, I think it was a third grade education. He would surround himself with people that would do his work for him. For example, he had people that would write his books for him. And the FBI was keeping a file on George Adamski because they couldn't believe he was bringing all this money and all the stuff that he was doing. But if you ever take a look at any of the pictures of the flying saucers that he offered, I mean, the one was a chicken. It's this device to keep those little chicks warm. I forget what that's called. It's like an incubator type of thing, but that's what it was. He took pictures of this and told people that it was a flying saucer. It wasn't. But the crazy thing about George Adamski was that people believed him. He had a little cult following. The FBI followed him, but you know, he was surrounded. He was a good-looking dude. He had his office filled with these women that just worked for him, probably for free, and did all of his work for him. But I mean, he had a magnetic personality. But the thing about Adamski that's important when you talk about a religion, it's this. This was in the 50s. This was right after 1945, and when we dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We were in the throes of the Cold War, and people were afraid that Russia was going to go and lob a missile on us and, you know, and blow us to kingdom come. Adamski was introducing us to these space brothers from Venus, and they were warning us about nuclear destruction. And Adamski really became one of the first New Age religions. He gave us hope and promise that if you listen to the Space Brothers, you know, we're going to be saved from ourselves. So that's what he did. I mean, even though he was a con man, a hoaxer, you know, he spoke in broken English. I mean, he was least likely to succeed. But he went over to Denmark to talk to the Queen of Denmark, and he had audience with all these people. I mean, people bought into his con, but he was a con man. He was a con artist. So that was George Adamski. Just interesting, dude. It's amazing there hasn't been a motion picture about George Adamski, because I mean, really, he's part of that whole tapestry of ufology. You know what he did. So.
Yeah, I've heard the name. I'm gonna actually look into that as well. And you know, so you mentioned Patterson Gimlin. Okay, you feel that's real. Have you seen the other video that came out recently? I believe it's a hoax. I mean, everybody's saying it is, but it's the one where they take a picture of a so-called Bigfoot from a train. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's in my book. That was the 2023 Colorado Bigfoot. And what happened was, and I have a chapter in the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot about that, but there was a married couple. They were a young couple. They were going on their honeymoon, and they rode on the train. And then somebody had seen this, what looked like a Bigfoot walking there in the valley, you know, on the side of the mountain. Now, what's interesting, if it was a man wearing what's called a ghillie suit, you know, it's a special suit that they could sneak up on animals and shoot them. If it was a man in a ghillie suit, he was really being foolish, because that was during elk hunting season. So that was a bad time of year to be walking around in the mountains. So I don't know. It looked fake to me. I called a number of Bigfooters in Western Pennsylvania to ask what they saw. And, some thought it was authentic, some thought it was a fake. But the one guy, Ron Murphy, said that at least it's opening up the conversation. At least we're talking about this. And that's what we need to do. We need to have this conversation. So,
Ron Murphy. Yeah, I interviewed him. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
And I just got to say, shame on you, hoaxers, man. Just knowingly and willingly taking advantage of a situation and going on platforms and just blatantly telling untruths. It's just the type of person you have to be to do that is I'm just totally against that. Yeah. Someone in the chat asked about, I don't know if you have an opinion on whether you thought the Billy Myers stuff was, what do you think about Billy Myers?
Yeah, I know. He's in my book, and Flying Saucer Esoteric, and let's see, he was a guy from, I want to say, Switzerland, and he was having these encounters and wrote about them, and I believe, I'm trying to think I think he was communicating with these alien creatures. I mean, that's what I recall. And there's been a couple of books that I have back home in Pennsylvania, but I don't recall, some specifics with him, but I know the name. But Billy Myers is another one that's sort of legendary, in the history of flying saucers. He's up there, telling his story.
Yeah, he had the black and white UFO that looked like I think it was the hubcap one, the one that looked like a hubcap hanging from a power line or something like that.
I know.
Yeah,
we want to believe so desperately, that I don't know. I forget what the one thing is, that if enough people think about it and want it to happen, there's these psychic abilities that we can actually manifest something, that maybe some of these creatures are created by all of us, like Shazam, like we all focus our energies into one space and something happens. I mean, who knows? Why not? I mean, that could be too.
Well, let me ask you this: we have about 2 minutes before we go to our break. What is your view on the Peru mummies? Because people are, hoax, maybe not. What do you think about mummies?
Yeah, I'm going to say hoax. And that was Jaime Maussan. He was the Mexican ufologist. This happened right after the American congressional hearings of 2023. So Jaime brought out, I think it was 2 of these alien creatures. They look like Peruvian aliens, I think 3 fingers and big heads and eyes. Mm-hmm. And he carted them out there, but he would not share that information with the scientists so they could go and take a look at them and find out if they were authentic. And the way the scientific method is this: in 1969, when we went up on the moon and we came back with all the moon rocks, we broke them up and we divvy them out to the scientific community so the scientists could go and see if they contained iridium or aluminum or whatever, some of these metals that were more alien than of the earth, okay, from that origin. So we did that, and that's what the scientific method is. You replicate, you have a hypothesis that says, I believe that this is what happened, and then you have scientists that look at that and try to confirm, try to validate that hypothesis. And with Jaime Maussan, it was just a scam. And this isn't the first time that he's done this. I mean, he's had photos of flying saucers, and he's had other mummies. And what he did was he used llamas. He took the bodies of llamas, the bones of llamas, and he mixed them with other things and claimed that he found these creatures. So Jaime Maussan is a serial hoaxer, and the 2023 Peruvian aliens, that's not his first rodeo.
Yes. Okay. I love it. I love it. Getting into great conversation here, guys, with Maxim Furek, calling out the hoaxers because they need to be called out, truthfully. We're going to talk about a lot more, get to your questions and everything else right after this break, right here at Spaced Out Radio. Like I said, if you leave, make sure you come right back. That's all I ask. See you in a minute.
I like what you said about some of those extreme believers don't have any critical thinking. That's exactly where it's at. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and it's just sad because they're the ones that the people on the outside, they see those people instead of the critical thinkers, and they just assume that we're all these religious believers. And I hate the word believer because it's not really it's not necessarily believing. Is using data to come to a point of factual facts, and it just bothers me when skeptics have that perception.
Yeah, let me show you this, Mr. Rob G. This is my next book. Can you see the Paranormal Apocalypse?
Oh yes, is this how it ends? Okay, what's the premise?
So I'm working on that. That's going to be Hangar 1, and so I'm having fun with that. But I talk about the critical thinkers, or the lack of critical thinking with some people that follow the leaders. I think Jim Jones, that Guyana massacre, that Jonestown massacre was a big one. They followed him. They drank the Kool-Aid. Drank the Kool-Aid. I think 900 people died.
Here's the wildest part of the Jim Jones thing, because it was in the Bay Area.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
My mother was almost sucked into that.
Oh.
She was literally almost sucked into that, and could have been part of that whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she tells me that story all the time, and I'm just like, wow. That close to, yeah.
I'd love to talk to her. Was he saying there was going to be a race war?
Jim Jones, he was saying that essentially the government was just persecuting them, and that that's why they had to move to Guyana, because to get out of the range of them.
Yeah. Now, Charles Manson said there was going to be a race war.
Possibly. That sounds more like a Manson thing. Yeah.
Helter Skelter. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Huh.
And these cult leaders, they use fear. Fear is the weapon that they use against us. Yeah, and that's where the expression "drank the Kool-Aid" came from, right? Yeah, Sierra, it is. And a lot of those folks didn't do it willingly. They had guards with guns. They already did a practice run drinking the Kool-Aid, and then when it was the real time, they were forced to do it. So.
And Roger Murray, this is a great question, because I actually have I'm doing something on this, because I have a Cult of series that I do on my other channel. I did the Cult of Scientology part 1 and 2. And then I'm doing the Cult of other things. The next one that I'm doing is this one right here. And we could talk about this right after the break, the Heaven's Gate cult.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some things that we could point at and look at and talk about there. But that's the cult mentality period within ufology is just amazing. When you look around, there are so many different actual cults within ufology that it's just mind-boggling. And I know some of these people in the field that have these just believers that just hang on every word that they say, and these leaders are leading them down a selfish path, a path that's beneficial for themselves, and really closing their minds off to all the other things that they really should be looking at and paying attention to. And it's just a shame, man.
You talk about critical thinking, and that you hit it right on the head. But it's that we have the answers inside of us. I mean, we don't need leaders, especially cult leaders, to tell us where it's at or what to do. We have the answers ourselves, but we're afraid. We're afraid to we don't have the courage. Some of us don't have the courage to do that. So that's why these cult leaders are able to go and scare us and say, I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be okay. I'll take care of you. And some people buy into that. And that's exactly what they do.
Sad, sad, sad. As we got about 45 seconds left here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing a special on the cults. That's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah. I say on my channel we have those tough conversations, because some people don't like to have those tough conversations, but you have to have them. You have to have those conversations.
Yeah,
and that's what we do over on my other channel. So,
what's that called?
It's called The Social Dig. YouTube.com/@MrRobG. We talked about Elon Musk, and we talked about capitalism as far as it relates to taking into space, and with the galactic stuff. So we get deep over there, but we got about 5 seconds left. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 1.5, we're on the back half of the second hour. Like I said, it means we only have about 25 minutes left with our guests. We're going to get your questions in. Make sure you put them in caps, guys. Also, don't forget, if you're watching us from X or Instagram, please hit the follow button and hit the little heart button as well. Let us know you like the show as we go ahead and get right back into the conversation here with Maxim Furek. So, Maxim, before we jump into the questions, I did want to touch on one thing, because we were kind of going into just the cult mentality. And, there was a viewer brought up a comment here about the Heaven's Gate cult. And, recently, within the last 6 months, I thought about it. I'm doing a show about it on my channel. And the reason why was because of the perspective that they had. Supposedly they did this, from what we understand, and I'll have to look deeper into it, because it had some alien background or alien belief to it, to where they were going to catch this spaceship while it was there, and they had to do it now. And so my whole thing was, when this happened, and back in the day when this took place, I had no understanding of why they would do this, and the whole alien aspect still hadn't sunk into me. So I'm thinking that's science fiction, and I'm not getting why this happened. Now that I know that aliens are here, based on things that we've seen, experiencers, then I look back at that incident, and I'm like, okay, is it really maybe a situation where these people really maybe have saw a UFO, or had a UFO sighting? Maybe they CE5, and that was enough for them to follow this gentleman down this path to unaliving themselves at the end of the day. Had you ever looked at that or thought about that?
Well, I don't know what they saw, but the leader wasn't a gentleman. He was a evil person. He made all of his converts, I think they had all shaved their heads, and they were asexual. I think they even had surgeries, maybe to be neutered, I believe. I mean, it was really some weird sexual stuff. And also it was almost like a techno cult, that technology thing. So when I first heard about that was like the weirdest. Was it Bo and Peep, I think?
I think so. Yeah, sounds about right.
It was in San Diego, maybe somewhere around there. Oh. But it was the most bizarre cult, and it was just amazing that people signed up for that. Again, following leaders, not using common sense, not using critical thinking, but following somebody, not using the power inside, but using something external. It's all wrong. Don't do that. If anybody's listening, and just if you're thinking about joining a cult, get a second opinion, talk to a trusted other, and before you get down that rabbit hole, because it's almost like some of these young people that are going to these haunted houses. They're going to the former prisons or mental institutions, and they're looking for the demons. Well, be careful. You're going to find something, because some of these spirits, and I believe in demons in a spirit world. Some of these demons are benevolent. I think some are lost, and some are mischievous, but some are malevolent, and they want to get get a soul. They want to capture a soul. So I'd say just be careful. Be careful where you're looking. I mean, if you're looking for the darkness, you're going to find it.
Great way to put a stamp on that. And I actually have a few questions from our audience. We have Super Crazy Movie Geek who was asking during the Roswell conversation, did any of the Roswell humanoids survive that you know of or that you've heard?
Well, as the story goes, they took them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And as the story goes, that there were some that were alive. And the publicist for the United States Army Air Force, Walter Haut, before he died, he had an affidavit. He claimed that he saw a living humanoids from Roswell, and there were a number of people that said that. Now, was it true? Or was it a deathbed confession? We don't know. But even with David Grush was able to interview 40 some people that talked about reverse engineering this alien technology, and he talked about some of these people had seen these humanoid creatures. So we don't know, but we suspect that some did survive.
All right, and let's see. Next question here is from. We'll go with Paul Damon. What do you think of Patrick Q. Jackson's research about the sphere network and being trapped inside human structures?
Not familiar with Patrick Q. Jackson.
Me either. I haven't heard of him. So
yeah.
So we can move on. Don't worry about it. We have let's see. Is this a question here? Okay. Yes, this is a question for Dr. Wu. Do you have in your possession a satanic dictionary? And if so, can you look up a word for me? Reason for this is a god appeared before me in Honolulu in 1990, and I believe I called upon it.
I don't, but I know people that are practicing Wiccans, and also they I know someone who's a practicing pagan. So if you want to contact me through my website, I'd be glad to go and put you in touch with them, and you could talk directly to them. Reason is a god appeared before me in Honolulu, and I believe I called upon it. Yeah. Hopefully this was a kind god and not an evil one. But yeah, feel free to contact me. I'm at www.maximfurek.com. I'd be glad to go and put you in the right direction.
All right, and let's see, what do we have? We have Panda on Fire. Hi, what's the connection, if any, between Bigfoot and orbs?
Yeah, well, especially in Western Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And although we don't have one central organization that tracks the numbers, we believe that we're as high as number 3, after California and Washington State, for the Bigfoot sightings. But in Western Pennsylvania, there's a place called Chestnut Ridge. Now, if any of you listeners get Fate magazine, I have an article on Chestnut Ridge that's coming out in the next issue of Fate. It's going to be all color. It's brand new. So, but anyway, Chestnut Ridge has not only the most Bigfoot sightings, but Bigfoot along with flying saucers or orbs. So that leads us to believe that there's a paranormal aspect to Bigfoot. And again, why haven't we ever found one? Well, some people think that they travel in these orbs, that they're being transported. that they may be experiments, they may be scouts, they may be prisoners. I mean, they may be anything. We just don't know. I mean, I've read all the theories about what Bigfoot could be. But again, certainly in Western Pennsylvania, in Chestnut Ridge, there's a connection between Bigfoot and flying saucers. And Stan Gordon, he's the guy that documents all this stuff. He's written books, and Stan has countless examples of people, seeing Bigfoot with the saucers together. I mean, a lot of them. So when I first heard about this, I thought it was really silly. Didn't believe it at all. But there's more than one sightings. There's more than just one witness who's seeing this thing. So there's something to it, something of substance. Something that Alan Hynek would call high strangeness. Because there's a whole bunch of levels of high strangeness. So there's something there.
And to add to that, I had heard a perspective from someone recently who said, who positioned it as, because the reason why you see these two things together, Bigfoot orbs or Bigfoot UFOs, potentially is that Bigfoot is essentially the guard. So when you see Bigfoot, he's essentially keeping you away from what the aliens are doing somewhere in the distance there. And I was like, that's a good way to look at it, because people do relate the two a lot together in different sightings. So I said it makes sense. But
yeah.
Sierra was asking you, how does a demon capture a soul?
Yeah. I think if you're vulnerable, the demon could get you. But here's the thing: and I warn people about this, but if you mess around with things like Ouija boards, seances, things like that, you could be opening up portals that allows these people to come in, these entities to come in. Mm-hmm. And tarot cards, I believe, would be another. So I would just, advise people to stay away from that. And the demons seem to especially like to go after religious people, priests, nuns, clergy, members of the clergy. It seems to just score more points with them, when they could go and get somebody who's dedicated their life to being pious and faithful, to the Lord. So I think they go after them. But I would suggest that you fill your heart with God's grace, that you stay positive, that you surround yourself with like-minded, positive people who care about you. And I approach this. I've been warned countless times about not getting too close, but I do this more as an academic. I mean, like I believe in in demons and in the spirit world. I was friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren, the people that were behind The Conjuring. I met them in 1988, and they were on a book tour. They had a book called The Haunted, and they were co-writers. And I became friends with them, and I would call Ed Warren up and ask him how he did battle with the demon. And he would say things like, he would explain how he would invoke the spirit of Jesus Christ, of Saint Michael the Archangel, and of Padre Pio to do battle with these demons. He would use the crucifix, he would use holy water, and that seemed to work. With the Pennsylvania, the Schmurl haunting, the Warrens weren't able to cleanse it, and the people had to bring in a priest from New York, Father Alphonse Treebolt, who had to do 4 exorcisms before he cleansed the house. But this Schmurl haunting was a typical house that was infested with demons. They would the Schmurl family smelled these horrific smells. They would hear grunting sounds like a pig. There would be profanities etched into the mirror. The Kali was picked up and flung across the room, levitated. And Jack Schmerl told everybody that he was raped by a female demon, a succubus. So this is what happened at the Schmerl haunting. And and again, it was a real circus. This happened in the mid 80s, and some people believed it and other people didn't. But the church believed it. The church kept on sending priests there to spend the night. And every Catholic church every Catholic diocese has a priest that's skilled in the rite of exorcism. So they were sending these exorcists to the Schmerl house, and none of them were able to get the job done. So they had to go and recruit this priest from New York State. But they finally got it done. But Ed and Lorraine Warren were just wonderful people. And, I kept in touch with them over the years. And for your listeners that aren't familiar with them, they're the ones, if you've seen any of the Conjuring movies, there's been 9 movies worth $2.1 billion. That's with the B. And the Conjuring 2, Annabelle Comes Home, Annabelle, The Nun. I mean, really, The Devil Made Me Do It. Some good flicks all about demonic possession. So Ed and Lorraine Warren were behind all that.
And to add to that, it's actually the most successful horror franchise, period, ever.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is awesome. We have Polly Rotterman asking you, what's your thoughts on the 20 and Back program?
Okay, and Polly, tell me about that too. But I'm like ignorant about a lot of these things. What is the 20 and Back?
In a nutshell, because I'm actually learning about it as well. I talked to a couple of people about it. It's where they get recruited as kids into this program. The government takes them into this program where they work on another planet and for 20 years, and then they come back. And so they come back to the day that they left.
Okay.
And it's like the whole super soldier thing.
Yeah. Is this anything like the Montauk?
No, who's the guy? Tony Rodriguez talks a lot about 20 and Back.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I would say take a look into it. It's some people don't buy it at all. Some people don't buy it at all, and some people are fully into it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm still on the fence with that.
Yeah.
But let's see. Sierra asks, what do you have to say regarding people who say that evil does not exist?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what the devil wants you to think. That evil doesn't exist, but evil does exist. The devil exists. In my book, The Sheppton Mythology, I talk about the miracle of Pope John the 23rd. Pope John the 23rd was canonized as a saint in 2014. There was a dual ceremony. The other pope that was canonized was Pope John Paul II. Here's the thing. Pope John Paul II organized a college for exorcists, and he believed that the devil exists, the devil is powerful, and he believed that because we're more scientific and less spiritual, that we're losing sight of that. So he wanted these Catholic priests and brothers to know the rite of exorcism, so they could go out and do battle with these demons and cleanse souls. So Pope John the second believed that evil exists, and he spoke about that quite a bit. And but I think a lot of us, because we think that we're more scientific and sophisticated, a lot of people think that by believing in the devil is old-fashioned, that it's what the church used to tell us to scare us. Like if you don't behave, the devil's going to get you. We've all heard stuff like that. Well, think about it. I mean, I am very, very careful and very, very fearful. I don't want to dabble in where I shouldn't be. And I've read enough stories about demonic possession and what it can do. So, just stay away. Yeah, Sierra, I hope that answered your question.
All right, and let me ask you. I have a few questions because we're getting 4 minutes till we close out. What are your thoughts on the Skinny Bob video?
The Skinny Bob video?
Yeah, it's the UFO. I mean, the alien video where they show him from the head down, and he kind of scans down, long arms, black suit.
Yeah, that reminded me a little bit of Slender Man, and I don't know where that came from, but a lot of these things they come out there, and and Bigfoot's a good example of that. I mean, a lot of people that have never seen Bigfoot, all of a sudden we have an image in our head of what Bigfoot looks like, because we've seen so many pictures on the internet. And I think the same thing with the Skinny Bob and Slender Man and some of these other things. I think that our heads being filled with these images, and they get bigger and bigger. And here's the thing, they take on a life of their own. So I don't know what it is, but I know that if you see it enough and hear it enough, there's going to be a certain belief in that, an investment in that as being real. So I don't know. I don't know if it's what that is.
All right, and have you seen, as well as the either the alien autopsy video or the alien interrogation video?
Yeah, I watched that alien autopsy thing on Fox a number of times, and what happened was the people that made this film claimed that, let me say, I think he said that the first film was destroyed, so they tried to recreate it with a fake alien. That was the thing. That was what they said. So you couldn't quite prove, what the truth was. But that was, I wrote an article about the alien autopsy. But we were riveted to that program. I couldn't believe it, when it was on Fox. It was prime time, and I forget when that was. But I remember watching that. That was good. That was good TV. So
yeah,
whether it was truth or consequences, it didn't matter. It was fun to watch.
The last one they have out is the one. There's a guy, Jon Stewart, who's putting money behind this alien interrogation video where it shows this alien, and he's like having trouble breathing, and the doctors come in and help him, and he's dribbling out his mouth. Yeah. Have you seen that? Have you seen that, and what do you think about that video?
No, I haven't seen that, but the KGB had a alien video as well after the Roswell one. So it sort of mimicked that Roswell film, but I don't know about the alien interrogation, but I think we're gonna see more and more and more of this, until we find the actual truth, So
yeah, those are pretty much, for me, just not in any way do I feel they're real. It's just I hate that people put stuff out like that, because once again, when we talk about muddying the waters, then we have to even ask questions about things like that. But I want to take this last minute, if you could tell everybody where they could find you.
Yeah, if they want to, first of all, if they want to track down any of my books, Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, Coleridge and Hoodoo, Flying Saucer Esoteric, whatever, I have a bunch of them. But you could either get them on Amazon, and you could read about me, Maxim Furek, F-U-R-E-K. Or if you want autographed copies of any of my books, you could reach me on my website, which is www.maximfurek.com. And it's MAXIMFUREK.com. And I want to thank your listeners for asking the questions. That, it really means a lot to me to know that people have listened in, and I'm very honored to be on the show tonight.
Awesome stuff, Maxim. We'll be talking again. This is the first time. Next time will be even better. So I do appreciate you coming on in and hanging out with us tonight. Outside of that, I want to make sure everybody doesn't go anywhere, because we still have an hour to go right here on the After Hours radio show. So if you leave, come right back. We'll see you in a minute.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
Okay. Thanks so much. We'll keep in touch.
All right, guys. Awesome interview with Maxim Furek. We will have him back. And we'll see you in just a minute here. Welcome back, everybody, to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3, with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. So we're going ahead and getting into some Steve Stockton and getting with Drew Banky with After Hours wrap up here in just a moment. 10 seconds. We come back from radio, guys. Let's get ready. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 3, the third and final hour. It's been an awesome show so far. I want to thank our guest, Maxim Furek, for hours 1 and 2. If you missed any of that conversation, hop in the archive, youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Catch up on that conversation. It was awesome. Also, don't forget to give us a follow. Or actually, this time, why don't you go over to our Patreon and become a space traveler, join the Space Travelers Club. Let's do that this time as we go ahead and jump back in to the conversation where we're going to jump in right into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries, right here on the After Hours Radio Show. And we, like I say every time, we appreciate Steve Stockton for allowing us to use his content and being a part of the show. So here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries.
Next up, we have the case of Jojo Dillard. On November 9th, 1995, 21-year-old Jojo Dillard left her home in Callan, County Kilkenny, to take a bus to Dublin, where she was supposed to meet up with friends. After spending the afternoon at Bruxelles Pub on Grafton Street, she planned to take the bus back home around 10 p.m. However, she missed the last bus of the night and had to board a different one that would take her somewhat close to her final destination in Nass, County Kildare. With no other plans for the evening, she hopped off that bus and began hitchhiking. This was a common occurrence at the time. After hitchhiking her first ride to Moon, Jojo called a friend from a payphone. She promised to be home soon, as someone had just pulled over and offered her a ride while she was making the call. As soon as she hung up, she presumably got into the car and was never seen or heard from again. Even though her family continuously asked for updates and assistance, the police initially refused to provide any help. They believed Jojo voluntarily disappeared and would reappear on her own eventually. During the evening, when Jojo Dillard disappeared, a truck driver claimed he saw a young woman running naked through Moon. The driver and his boss were traveling through the area at the time and spotted the visibly distressed woman, but they did not stop to offer assistance. They did, however, call the police and were promised that someone would immediately go to the location and investigate. The driver claimed that he later learned the woman was not Jojo, and authorities confirmed that it was actually someone else. Now, the murder of Jojo was only recently declared by authorities, and now the police are searching for any traces of remains. The case was reopened a few years ago, and the Police Service of Ireland issued a statement to the public and Jojo's family. They now believe she was a victim of homicide and that her cause of death was most likely due to violent means. This case is filled with an extraordinary amount of information, largely due to the relentless efforts of Jojo's family, particularly her devoted sister. They've taken it upon themselves to investigate the case, feeling let down by the authorities from the get-go. Hiring investigators and following leads has become their own responsibility. Despite all their efforts, the truth behind Jojo Dillard's disappearance remains elusive, and sadly, she is not the only young woman to go missing in that area. Next, we have Jamie Herdman. At only 26 years old, Jamie Herdman was a skilled chef from Whakatane, New Zealand. He had failed to work at a furniture removal company in Broome, Western Australia, when he disappeared. During his free time, Jamie poured his passion into renovating a Nissan utility van that he dreamed of taking for a cross-country trip across Australia. After completing his project and waiting for the perfect moment, Jamie finally set off on his long-awaited road trip. Jamie's family reported him missing on December 5, 2006, when they couldn't reach him during his trip. An investigation was launched, and authorities discovered that Jamie was last seen hitchhiking at Dally Waters, approximately 317 miles from Darwin, where his family believed he was headed. His van, which had a history of overheating, was quickly located abandoned near a roadhouse on Stewart Highway. Inside the unlocked van, authorities found Jamie's clothes, phone, credit cards, toothbrush, and some cash. However, his keys were missing. In November of 2006, Jamie made the unusual decision to travel through the center of Australia on his way to Daly Waters. His brother Carl described this as bizarre. Jamie was an avid fisherman, leading his family to believe that he would have more likely chosen a route along the coast. However, Carl reported that Jamie had left Broome suddenly and without informing anyone, not friends, family, or even his employer. The family suspected that Jamie may have received a warning from a friend about someone who was after him or planning to harm him in some way. Everyone held on to the hope that Jamie was simply unaware of the search efforts to find him and that he was out there, somewhere, continuing his journey and still safe. There was also the possibility that he had become stranded in a remote Aboriginal community, cut off from the rest of civilization due to severe flooding. But as more time passed, without any word from Jamie, it became increasingly unlikely that he would be found alive. Despite extensive search efforts on land and in the air, no trace of Jamie or any clues as to his whereabouts have ever been discovered. He remains missing to this day, along with many others who have traveled through the isolated Australian outback and never returned home. And finally, Joshua Jones. Joshua Jones, a 29-year-old man from Hurst Rise in Matlock, Derbyshire, England, left his home on December 12, 2020 at approximately 11:30. He told his wife, Talia, that he was going to the pharmacy and would be back soon. Before leaving, he kissed his 2-year-old son and wife goodbye, but never returned. At around noon, CCTV footage captured Joshua at a department store and then later at a nearby Sainsbury grocery store. Witnesses reported seeing him hitchhiking on the A632 towards Chesterfield at around 4 p.m. Prior to his disappearance, Joshua had texted his wife saying, "I love you to the moon and back." This mysterious vanishing led to multiple reports to the police about potential sightings of Joshua. However, no one has been able to locate him since. When he disappeared, he'd been wearing a gray super dry jacket and blue jeans. The sleeves of the coat were light colored and the inside was green. Other identifying features include a Japanese-inspired tattoo on his right arm featuring a dragon, a koi fish, and a crane. On his left wrist, there was a tattoo in Talia's handwriting that read, "To the moon and back," with a red rocket and runes surrounding a moon inside. Despite the efforts of authorities, including drone searches, mountain rescue teams, and a helicopter, Joshua Jones could not be found nor any information about his disappearance. There are no leads or evidence in this case. His wife claimed that she wasn't surprised that he couldn't be seen on CCTV footage because there were only cameras in central Matlock. Talia also mentioned that her and Joshua had often talked about leaving society behind and building a treehouse to live in. During the pandemic and lockdowns, Joshua struggled with feeling trapped and anxious. He refused to seek medical help, believing time would heal his wounds. Talia remains hopeful that her husband is still alive and possibly living in the wilderness, as he was skilled in survival and loved the outdoors. Now, there is no record explaining the reason that he would have had to possibly leave his wife and son behind intentionally. However, the day before he vanished, his car had broken down, and both he and Talia were concerned about the expenses of getting it fixed and how that would affect plans to purchase Christmas gifts. On top of that, rent was due, and they had yet to shop for their holiday meal. Talia speculates that the stress of their life together may have pushed him to flee. Unfortunately, there is no further information on this case, and Joshua Jones remains missing to this day.
All right, that is Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries. We do always appreciate Steve Stockton for being a part of the After Hours radio show. And like I said, he could go ahead and read a receipt and it would be suspenseful. So we do appreciate and show love to Steve Stockton. He has a YouTube page. You guys go, if you want some more of the Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, I would advise definitely going to check that out. As we go ahead and get ready to jump into our After Hours wrap up right here with the guy that you know, the guy with the most, Mr. Drew.
You're an unbelievable monster!
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! Get in my belly!
What?
You're a monster.
All right. After hours wrap up right here with our guy Drew Banky. Drew, we had a fantastic show today. Maxim Furek, our guest, talked about some really awesome stuff tonight. I know you were listening in. What did you think about it? Did you have anything that you wanted to point to about the interview tonight?
I think it was a great interview, man. He covered a whole gambit of stuff, you know, from demons to Ouija boards to, of course, the drones to everything in between, man. Nothing stuck out, not that I can recall, man. That just in particular, what stuck out to you? What do you think about it? You always asking me, what do you think about it?
It's the after hours wrap up with Drew Banky. So I it's always an awesome conversation. Like I said, I like the perspective of calling out hoaxers in this field, man. Let's start there. Calling out hoaxers in this field. There's some viewpoints that he has that I really do appreciate, and that's one of them. We have a lot of people in this field that if we want to be, if we want to, especially in a moment like now where the world's eyes technically are on us with this whole drone thing going on, you have people that have never looked at this before. Now they're looking at us, and what first impressions, last impression sort of thing, right? So these new people come in, and last thing you want to do is leave a bad impression on a lot of these people. So if what happens if they tune into a hoaxster, a hoaxster show, right? Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this everything they're talking about over there is garbage, and I'm not ever going to tune back into that. Yeah, so you know what I mean. So
it gives away the credibility for sure, but this is a field just over the past couple of years, has become acceptable. Before that, we were on the outside in the fringe, but now that it's becoming more mainstream, people are taking on podcasting and radio in this industry, that the UFO industry, because it's becoming its own industry now. It's becoming its own mainstream, and it's becoming profitable. That's what I was talking about last night. There's a lot of people out there, everyone's dreaming of getting that 100% video, that makes them, that goes down in history as the first, credible picture of an alien stepping off a craft or something like that. I think we have a lot of credible craft videos, but there's a lot of people out there, and they're not doing it. A lot of them are not doing it for the wrong reasons, but there are some out there that are just out there simply because they know it's going to make them billions of dollars.
And with you saying that right there, I'm glad you actually brought that up, Drew Banky, because here's what I'm going to say. And part of it's okay, but part of it's not okay. So when I look around in this, okay, I'll use YouTube, for instance. If I go on YouTube, if anyone goes on YouTube right now, you're going to see fitness channels that all of a sudden have a video up about UFO drones. You have all sorts of channels that never have dived into the subject, are totally related to other topics, have nothing to do with the field, but now the people are doing these videos on these drones. Now, with that being said, there's a good part to that, because it's more eyes being focused on an issue that's real to humanity. And we really do need that focus. And I've always talked about how important influencers are in getting that message out there to those who have never touched the subject before. So part of me feels really good about that, with that coupled with the newscasters out here that we have that were never touching the subject, that all of a sudden have to touch the subject because the story is too compelling, and it's just a lot of attention on something that is very important to humanity in the moment. But there is the flip side to that, just as you said, where there are people simply talking about it on their channels because they know it's driving numbers.
It's an
And
algorithm.
it's
you
the
know?
only reason why some of those people are doing it. Now, that's the part I don't agree with. But like I said, I guess I'll take the win, being that at least a lot of people who normally weren't talking about it are now talking about it.
Dude, I made most of my posts are sharing videos of clips of interviews that I did or things like that, or sharing like things that me and Ella are doing on the homestead, things like that. And they get some views, 1,000 views, 2,000 views tops. I made a post the other day and it simply said, who is holding XRP, which the XRP is a cryptocurrency. That's all I said. I didn't post a picture on it or anything. About 2 hours after I posted it, I get a notification that said your post just hit 10,000. Then I get another notification like half hour later. It said your post just hit 15,000 views. It's like, so XRP and crypto hit it just because I mentioned XRP and it hit this algorithm, and this is the same thing that's going on with drones. And you're exactly right. It's people are jumping onto anything that will boost their algorithm, get them more followers, get them more views. But the people that were in this before it started becoming mainstream, they got into it because they had personal experiences to the point where they had to find a place to share it. Like myself, like I was having so many experiences back in 2019. I didn't know what to do with it. I went to move on first, and then I was like, it hit me one night. I was like, podcasting and radio is the way to, get some of this off my chest almost. It's almost holds anxiety, when you see things and you have nowhere to share it. That's the community where I come from, and I know you come from, and many others. But now that's becoming mainstream, you're going to see a lot more mainstream people talking about it.
Yeah, and like I said, as long as it moves the narrative, but I just say for those people out there that are jumping into it, do your research. Don't just talk out the side of your neck. You don't have to do it like I do it, or you don't have to do it like Drew Banky does it, or like how Dave Scott does it. But at least try to add some value to the conversation, and not just talking out the side of your neck for the sake of trying to move that algorithm and trying to get that going. Because some of the people that I did see, you could just tell they were out of their element. They just had no clue on really what to say, and it wasn't their thing really. And they just see that there's a lot of numbers out there driving up because of the topic, so they just want to do the YouTuber thing, which is jump on a trend. And but here's the downside to that, right? So when when the talk dies down, those people may stop talking about it too. They'll likely go back to their normal thing that they do. So I'm just hoping that we get some genuine new recruits in here to kind of make sure that we spread the word. Now, with that being said, being that these moments are so rare for ufology, I have talked about, and I think it is a good idea to do something along the lines of using the moment that we have and the attention on anomalous things in the sky. And I forget, I think I told this to the guest. I just been talking so much lately that I don't even remember. But I know I brought this up to use this moment to kind of do a bait and switch and say, hey, okay, if those aren't craft, these aren't. And then show some real UFO footage, because I have sightings like mine where there's 47 objects in the sky. That should be sitting up there right along with the drone conversation. It's just as important and just as valid to what's going on. So I think in a moment where we have everyone's attention, the people that have data and receipts, once again, hashtag receipts, that we bring those receipts to the table, because the world needs to see it. There's stories going around all the time about UFOs and encounters and this and that. We need the people with the receipts to bring the receipts and kind of show those to the rest of the public so we could, if there before the conversation dies out and goes away and everyone's focus goes back to their daily lives, that they at least get the, the feeling or note, they get the knowing that this is real. Like aside it, regardless what you think about the drones, there are
Yeah.
other things that are going on as well.
Yeah. And this brings me back to the guest, and it brings me up a point that I did want to talk about. The fact that the pattern of the powers to be, whenever something has happened like this, something else has been going on in the background, and this has been something to divert our attention away from something else. Who knows, but that's the pattern that we've seen from the government, the powers to be, the money, whoever controls this whole thing, the Rothschilds, or I don't want to get the channel canceled by saying too much, but the powers to be that control it, this has been the pattern that we've known. Like if there's something that's in the news and it's prevalent in the news that's taken the collective's attention away, lots of times this is not actually what's going on. We tend to find out later on that something else was going on in the background, when the OJ trial was going on or something like that. It was diverting us from something else. So there's that theory, like I said last night, I'm still not convinced totally one way or the other what it is. Nobody really knows. I hope to find out what these drones are one day and get to the bottom of it. But something tells me maybe we won't ever know the full story, until 100 years from now, when it comes declassified enough for our great grandchildren to put in their own FOIA request and try to figure out what was happening when their grandparents were alive.
Yeah. There's, and like I said, there's a lot of clues out there as far as what, boots on the ground stuff that we can still do. And I think I might do, because there, as far as the lead to follow up on these UASs that, in the UAP report that we reported on the other day, that, there was a law enforcement agency from a previous incident that happened like a year ago, within the last year, where they recovered the crashed object, whatever it was, UAS. Let's see that. Let's bring that to the table. So maybe that's something we can look into and kind of just, help the narrative and try to help move this thing along, because I don't see where this ends. I don't see, the end game is going to have to be, it's going to, and here's the ironic thing about it. The end game for what's currently going on now is going to be the government admitting to something. And we know historically the government won't admit to anything.
No.
So
especially not right now.
So, I mean, even if it wasn't related to this, even just for whatever, if it's something they want to keep secret and they don't want to tell you, we've seen they won't tell you. So if we're counting on them in this moment to give us a final answer that gives us finality to what it is that's going on, is just, I think, I don't see where that happens. I don't see it. We're not in a world where that's even realistic. As we got about 30 seconds to go here to break.
Yeah, I saw Europe's having incursions right now, and I seen some videos from Europe while I was waiting. Or earlier today, I saw these videos. So
yeah, I've seen there's some stuff going around. And it's just, like we were talking about yesterday, it's just at a time like this, it's just so hard because of the void and the lack of information. It's just, people are filling that void with all kind of stuff. And then it's like the junk bin at the store. Like, you might have some good stuff in there, but you got to sift through all the garbage to get to the good stuff. So with that being said, thanks to Lavera Lucchini for her support. And we're going to go ahead and take our final break of the night. You guys don't go anywhere right here at Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and the guy right there, Drew Banky. After Hours wrap up. We'll have some UFO and weird news also coming a little bit later. You guys make sure you stay right where you're at. We're almost home. Let's get there. Spaced Out Radio. See you in just a minute. Clear.
Yeah, they're starting to have some sightings around here. My neighbors have been calling me and sending me videos of here in the valley.
Here's what I hope with because it does appear like they're just popping up in all these new places. And then we talked about the void potentially being there for just regular people to put a drone up real quick because it's a cool thing to do now in this moment. So what I would hope then is that in these areas where maybe they're coming every day or where they just haven't come yet, that we get the best cameras that we have available ready, like get them on standby with the 20 times zoom or the best camera you can get your hands on, and let's get it in place so we could get that definitive photo, the photo that shows the detail. I mean, because it's one of those things where we talk about in ufology where people have repeated visits by extraterrestrials or they see UFOs all the time. Then it would behoove you for that next encounter to be fully prepared to capture that incident and have that receipt. So maybe that's a thing we could do for people who are, even in my area. I don't have a great camera, but I have one like the one I'm using now. I'll take this one and use this one. But I think it's more about the lens that you have. You got to have something that's going to really zoom in on what it is that you're looking at, something that's good in low light. You know what I mean?
I want to see someone waving out the window, man. Like
exactly. I mean, or at least see the made by XYZ printed on the side of the object.
American flag, whatever's on it. I don't give a shit. I don't care what it is, man. I just want to know. The drone thing is to the point where I don't care what it is to this point. I just want to know what it is. There's been so much talk of it. And it continues going on. It's crazy. That
makes hella sense. Latchkey Hustle. Mr. Rob G, we should set up a quick GoFundMe to rent a high-end camera for that purpose. I never thought about that. That's a great idea right there. Yeah. And you would think, Latchkey and Drew, you would think, and viewers, you would think that the news would have those cameras on deck. Film producers, like photographers, paparazzis, they had the long lenses, this long, right? They could zoom in from way across the street. They're catching people half a mile away, right? So these, let's recruit some of those guys that have the things already in their possession to get out here and take some of these pictures. And maybe they have, and they just haven't showed us yet, but they're showing up enough and often enough, whatever these things are, for someone to have the best footage imaginable of one of these things. And
I mean,
you would want to be that person because your photo is going to be the one that breaks the case or that solves the riddle, right?
Oh, it'll go down in history. That's the first. All these drone videos and stuff are nice, but we're waiting on it. We all know deep down we're waiting on that one, but that one is going to go down in history as one of the greatest photos of all times. And that's if it is, if capital IF, if it is off planet drones, it's going to go down as one of the most important videos of all time.
Listen to this. They said they put up some helicopters on some of these things, and I've seen some of those high-speed chase videos in LA where they're zooming in like from 3 miles away on a vehicle traveling down the street, and they're following this vehicle through the twists and turns of the under overpasses, and they're still staying on the object. Now I've seen them do that. So why can't they should be able to do that here? I would think it shouldn't be too far off for them to do that here. I mean, like I said, maybe they have, and we just haven't seen the footage. That's the problem with the citizens not having access to that technology to be able to capture that type of data. because the people that do have it are gatekeepers for the information. You know what I mean?
They're never going to be totally transparent about it. At least not at this stage. You know, there's they're going to the secret thing that we got to keep this secret to protect the people, this, that, and the other. You know, they hide behind that BS excuse of why they're not telling the people that trying to protect them. You know, it's crazy. You know,
As we get ready to come back from break here, 10 seconds. All right, everyone, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 3, back half of the third hour. We're going home right now. This is going home. And I hope that you enjoyed the show so far, guys. Glad that you've been along for the ride. Now, but if you arrived late, if you just got here, you can hop in the archive absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio as we jump back into the after hours wrap up with Drew Banky right here tonight. And yeah, looking at this here, we were talking during the break, and we have a question. Well, I guess a question in the chat here that we'll use for the conversation.
sure.
Excuse me. And it's saying, good point, Rob. Why aren't hundreds of news helicopters chasing these things? And so we were talking during the break about how maybe we should take this opportunity, with these objects coming, day by day, like clockwork, for the people that are still seeing them every day, to put themselves in the position to have the best equipment to capture data on these things, whether there's photos. I was pointing out that we have news outlets that have these super great production cameras. We have photographers out there with these super long lenses, paparazzi, super long lenses. They can zoom in from a mile away and catch a subject. We also have our police helicopters that are in the sky all the time. And I watch the high-speed chase videos. They show up on YouTube all the time. And they're crystal clear. I'm looking at the person in the car, and this helicopter is like a mile or two away, and I'm looking inside of this person's car. So why in the world wouldn't we be able to use one of those to capture one of these things and just kind of put it to bed to say, hey, we see a Made in America flag on it, or we see something anomalous that doesn't make sense.
Hieroglyphics or something.
Yeah, hieroglyphics. So both ends of the spectrum, but maybe they do have it though, and I was saying that the problem with that is when you have gatekeepers, when you have people that hold this equipment and they're not amongst the populace, amongst society, then they tend to gatekeep that data. And we need actually the power to have that sort of technology within our own hands so we could take those photos. And we had someone in the chat here, Last Key Hustle, talking about, hey, maybe we should do a GoFundMe and kind of get one of these cameras that would, capture one of these things in 4K detail. And I'm not above it. I think it has to happen because, as we said and talked about before, the ironic thing about the situation we're in right now is we're waiting on answers from a government that never gives answers. They never answer the questions, and
they never will, man.
And they never will.
And at least not anytime soon. Like,
especially if it's related to what it is looking like is related to, then it's been 80, 90 years of the whole UFO situation. If this is in any way tied to that, then for sure there's no answer coming on this. So we need to take the moment while these things are still in the sky, while these incidents are still happening, and be prepared to capture the data on our own. And they're just like you said, Drew, they're popping up in your area now. They haven't popped up where I'm at yet, but the little camera I have, I'm ready to do what I can with that. And then just areas in other places. If it's going to be a progressive thing where they're popping up. That way we can just put this to bed, because some of it may be anomalous, some of it may be copycats. We can instantaneously put most of this stuff to bed if we all have the proper equipment to capture these things.
The problem here right now is it is currently, in the teens or something right now. I don't know. It's 20 degrees right now, so it's not really comfortable to sit outside and look at look at the sky. Luckily I can looking out the windows and stuff like this as I'm listening to the guests and stuff at night. I often walk around the office and look out the windows and stuff, and have the guests like playing on the speaker in the office so I can hear it. But it's not a comfortable to be looking at the sky too long outside. That's why I think you're in a great area. You can go outside and put on a hoodie and you'd be all right. But here it's just harder to look at the sky for an extended amount of time, because of the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to the guest though, about the Bigfoot. I love all that stuff too. I'm all into that stuff. You got to experience a Uwhippie ceremony, man. And I wish more people would know about the Uwhippie ceremony. Another thing about the guests I want to mention is him talking about demons and how they attack priests and things like that. I have a theory on that. I believe that's more based on priests, and priests are brought up in this construct where demons are a thing. So someone that's brought up in a construct where demons are not a thing, that's why they're not getting, there's a low chance of them getting attacked or a demon attached to them, because it's not even in their belief system. That's my theory on it. But anyways.
Yeah. I really want to. I had another guest that we spoke to, who was Ed Odell, and the Orion Effect podcast, and we kind of he's starting to study demonology, and there's some esoteric guys like Dr. Justin Sledge, I think is his name. And he's into that whole demonology subject. And I'm just, not saying that I believe in any of that, or, but it's interesting, and it's an interesting conversation. And it's, why not have it? Why not have that conversation?
No, it's one thing that we need to all think about, and I think this is a correct time to address it. I saw in the chat today there was some banter going back and forth. We need to respect each other's opinions, and we don't need to subscribe to them, but we need to respect them, and if someone comes on and says something that we don't agree with, or someone says something in the chat we don't agree with or something, we don't need to interact with that and go and have a back and forth. Like, we are here talking about fringe things, and there are going to be conversations, things said that not everyone's going to, there's going to be disagreements on it. But as a community, we don't need to jump down the rabbit hole of conflict, just over someone ideas, and I think this is a great time to mention it, because what I saw in the chat today, kind of disappointed in the chat a little bit. But let's just do better, guys. This is, we're trying to figure things out that probably hasn't never been figured out in human history before, and we're discussing them, and everybody's idea is just as important, is just as valid as the other. That's my piece on that.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And for the radio audience, if essentially there were some things going on this end during the show, but it's okay. It's okay. We have people that out here that will take care of that when they see it. And let me see here. Yeah. So with that being said, let's do it like this, because it's the holiday season coming up here, and before I let you go for the night, I need to know what you have planned for your holiday season, because technically this will be the last after hours show until after the holiday. That we'll be back. We'll be back not next weekend, but the following weekend. So, what do you plan? What's the plan for the holiday here?
So not next weekend, but the following. Oh, right out. So we'll be here right after Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah, just we got tree up and we got Christmas with kids and stuff like that. And I don't think we have anyone visiting, but yeah, just and I'm gonna smoke a turkey for Christmas. I got another turkey I'm gonna be smoking.
Okay.
It's a little bit bigger than the one I did on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
About 8 pounds bigger. So yeah, I enjoy doing that. And I don't hardly drink ever, but when I'm smoking something like that, I usually have a Coors, one beer with while I'm smoking. So looking forward to that. And yeah, man, just getting ready for the New Year's and getting ready, starting to pack my bags for Vegas, man.
That's right.
and planning the retreat that's coming up in February. Just work and family, man. Just it's really no different than any other time. We went.
It's a little more special, though.
Yeah, it's always a little more special. It's the time of the year. I love. Like I was saying, I was talking on a podcast a couple days ago, and I was talking about how this time of the year you almost get to live through your kids again. And that's
Right.
when you have small kids, it brings back the magic of Christmas. Like, after you turn like 20, 21, and, in your 20s and 30s, and if you don't have any kids, those you kind of miss the memories of waking up in the early morning and, having kids screaming at you or trying to get you to open presents before you even use the bathroom, things like that. You kind of miss that magic. And having kids, it's almost like you get to live through them again. So living through, Hawk and Ember and seeing them, this is B Hawk's second Christmas. And he's starting to get the idea of opening up presents and stuff like that. Ember's starting to get the same, and we took him to see Santa today, and just enjoying the season, enjoying the family. That's all we got. We got some big presents for him. I got like a fake kitchen. I hope they're not watching hope my kids are not watching this. They should be in bed. But we got like a fake kitchen for them. I got to start making that. It's going to take like 6 hours to put that thing together. It's got, everything you could think of, just a, mini fake kitchen. I can't remember what we have, but I got two things that it's going to take about 10 hours of construction to make both of those. So I'll probably have to start those in the office a couple days before Christmas.
Awesome stuff, Steve.
It's all going on, man.
It's all about the experience, man. That's a whole experience you just described for me right now, and I love it because that's exactly what the thing you look forward to doing is sneaking out and putting the bike together for the kid, behind the scenes, or letting Santa bring it because Santa's real too. Santa's real. Let me preface by saying that for the kids out there, but. No, for me, I'm going to be out of state. I'll be out of state and for about a week. And so even on my own channel, Social Dig, I won't be doing things over there for that week. Be out seeing family. And, it may snow where I'm going. So I may have a Christmas snow, which I never get here in Southern California, which is actually pretty awesome to think about. I'm not thinking about getting trapped on the mountain pass, though. During the snowstorm, that's what I'm trying to avoid. But it's about being with family that you haven't seen in a while, exchanging gifts, just seeing the kids smile, wearing matching pajamas. Not saying that I do that, but the kids might do that. Hot cocoa, or what, eggnog, the lighting the fire in the chimney,
Yes.
playing your favorite Christmas carols. And gosh, I want to tell you a Christmas song for you guys to go listen to. It's Charles Brown, and it's "Please Come Home for Christmas." I think I don't care what you listen to out there. I think that would be one that you would really like. Um, and I'll actually be in Nevada, just for anyone who's asking out there. But yeah, and then that's it. And then it's back to business. Hopefully by the time we get back, we know what's going on with these drones and
Yeah,
what's going on there. We can get back to business and moving this needle, which we will
we can
do.
have a special
You
breaking
dang on
news
straight.
special.
So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing wrapped up, Drew Banky, because when we shut the show down, I am out like a scout on a new route. So you got
Hey,
anything you want to leave these people with before the holiday?
happy holidays, however you celebrate it. Just do it with love. Do it from the heart. Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever it is. You light menorahs, whatever you're doing right now. Just do it from the heart. Even if you don't even celebrate anything. What was the poll from Seinfeld? The Festivus for the rest of us. If you celebrate like that, celebrate with family. Do it with love. From my family to each and every one of yours, everybody in the chat, everybody listening, you, Rob, especially you, Rob, and your family, my heart goes out. We are one, and use this time to go into love. And don't do any feuding around the dinner table or anything. Leave that for another time. I love y'all, and I'll see you after the holidays.
All right, man. Much love to you as well and your family. Hope everything goes great. We'll talk during the holiday anyway. So, but outside of that, I'll check you later, buddy. Take care.
Peace out.
All right. That's Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. As we go ahead and get ready to wrap things up here, maybe we can fit in one news story. I think we could potentially do that. So let me go ahead and try to do that for you right now. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right. UFO and weird news of the week. We can maybe fit in one story, and I'm going to go ahead and try to do that as we look at this here. And the story is in regards to a man who suffered near-death experience, who says afterlife was like what he calls a cosmic orgasm. So we'll go ahead and get ready to jump into that. And firefighter Bill Letson had a near-death experience in 1964. A man who suffered a near-death experience thinks he knows what's on the other side. Retired firefighter Bill Letson says he's experienced the afterlife and claims it was, quote, like a cosmic orgasm. Before he reached that conclusion, it all came about in 1964 when Bill became ill due to a flu epidemic in the city of Santa Barbara, California, where he was working. The firefighter said he became very sick and was rushed to the hospital to be put on IVs and 11 liters of fluids. After Bill was prescribed with 2 more drugs, he went into intensive care and something bizarre happened. At some point during the night, I left my body and I found myself lying. Let's see. It's actually, it's commercials on this thing here. So we may have to skip this story. Damn shame. Okay. Before the conclusion, he reached that conclusion. It all came about in 1964 when Bill became ill due to a flu epidemic in the city of Santa Barbara, California, where he was working. The firefighter said he became very sick and was rushed to the hospital on 11 IVs and fluids. After Bill was prescribed with 2 more drugs, he went into intensive care where something bizarre happened. At some point during that night, I left my body and I found myself flying through the star-filled realm, he said on Shaman Oak's YouTube channel in 2023. Bill recalled seeing magnificent stars and orbs while in the realm, and that everyone around him was so welcoming. All I felt was everything a human ever wants to feel, he continued. just acceptance and love and joy and being held, and all those things, all those negative things that we have about ourselves, they were gone. Before Willow witnessed the collision, she complete. Okay, no, that was it. So there, it's a buggy news site that we got, and we have full page ads. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to finish that story, but we can go ahead and get ready to wrap things up with some just good thoughts and good feelings, because I want to make sure that, and I know not everybody out there indulges in the holiday season that we're coming up into, and that's why we just call it a holiday season in particular. But I'll say Merry Christmas to those who celebrate that. Outside of that, Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, any of the other ones that I may be missing, and just happy holidays for those who don't celebrate any of those things. This is a time for you to be with your family. I call it the season of giving. This started way back in November, where the feeling is just a feeling that you get, from being in a situation where you're giving. I give time to do these shows, and this is my giving to you, my gift to you, as we sit here and we do these shows, and I'll continue to do this. I just want to make sure that we're putting positive energy out there, and making everybody feel good, because we are all human beings, and everybody deserves to feel good. You smile for somebody, or you say thank you when you pass them, or maybe even do something cool like paying for the person in front of you, paying for the person behind you at Starbucks. If you go, during this holiday season, a couple dollars doesn't hurt anything. The guy asking for change, maybe give him, few extra dollars, just whatever you have in your pocket. I do that all the time. And it's just, putting that sort of energy out there, because that's how that energy kind of multiplies, and that's how you get a movement. That's your superpower, to be able to affect the world, one person affecting the world by putting that positive energy out there. So let's see some of that this holiday season. Actually, I'll end with this as well. I left the show last night, and had a conversation afterwards. So I didn't actually leave the office until about 2 a.m. As I'm going home, right in front of me, a car comes literally in my lane, comes from a side street and smashes into a center divider right in front of my car. 2 cars ahead of me went on about their business. I pulled over, put on my hazard lights, went to help the people, called 911, and that was it. My good deed for the day. So I want to thank our guest for tonight, Maxim Furek. I want to thank Drew Banky, the After Hours Wrap Up, Steve Stockton with Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries. I want to thank the guy that you hear right now, Ron Bummerfootball, the man who rocks us out each and every weekend, as he teaches us and tells us never say never again, because as we know, with this drone situation, the phenomenon is real. That means anything and everything is possible. If you love what you heard on the show tonight, make sure you throw your horns up. Also, we want to thank you, the listeners and viewers, digital platforms, terrestrial radio, from whenever and wherever in the world you're listening from. We appreciate you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? We own the night. Remember, this broadcast is copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure serving you as your host. I am Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers, this isn't a goodbye nor a farewell. However, next time we see you as we go off air for the night, you can best believe we'll be right back here doing the same thing. Have a happy holiday. You guys all take care. That's a wrap, guys. Totally appreciate everyone coming out once again, and truly hope everyone has a great holiday, and we will see each other before the new year. So I'll be able to wish you positive energy into the new year as we sit back maybe and talk about some resolutions, and we're gonna do all that. Love all you guys right back. Flat Six, appreciate you. Fab, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody out there. You guys know it. You guys know that I do. And we're going to keep doing this, keep moving this needle. And that's just what we do. And we're just going to continue to do so. So I may do a show on Social Dig on Wednesday. That's in the balance right now. I may have to push it out, but we're set for Wednesday so far. Check the community tab on my page in case anything comes up. But until then, I will see all you guys later. Let's go ahead and rock up out of here and take it on home. See you guys later. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.